In this video, I'm going to talk about inverse proportions. Inverse proportions are the opposite of direct proportions. Remember, in an inverse proportion, when one quantity increases according to a certain ratio, the other quantity decreases in the same ratio, or vice versa. Let me tell you two examples for inverse proportions. The number of people needed and number of days taken to finish a task. We know that when number of people increases, number of days taken to finish a task will decrease. And also the other way around. When number of people needed decreases, the number of days taken to finish the task will increase. Even speed of a vehicle and the time taken to travel a certain distance are in an inverse proportion. This means when the speed of a vehicle increases, the time taken to travel a certain distance will decrease. And also the other way around. Let's take number of men and number of days to finish a certain task. Let's say 12 men finish a certain task within 4 days. Now, if we reduce the number of men, let's say 2, from 12 to 2, what will happen to number of days? That will definitely increase. Let's say it's 24. Now we can clearly see that number of men and number of days are in an inverse proportion. Now, what is the ratio of number of men? It's 12 to 2. If we further simplify this ratio, if you divide both terms by 2, you will get 6 to 1 ratio. What about the ratio of number of days? It's 4 to 24. If we further simplify this ratio, we can take 1 to 6. Now, if you consider these two ratios carefully, what can you see? Although the ratio 6 to 1 is not equal to 1 to 6, if we interchange two numbers of one ratio, we can take the other ratio, isn't it? Say if I interchange the numbers of this ratio, I get 1 to 6, and it's same as the other ratio. Or if I interchange the second ratio, then I get 6 to 1, which means it's same as this first ratio. Let's say I interchange the second ratio and make it equal to the first ratio. 6 to 1. Then I can say that ratio of number of men equals ratio of corresponding number of days interchanged. So the ratio of number of men is 6 to 1, and the ratio of corresponding number of days interchanged is also 6 to 1. So such a relationship between two quantities is called an inverse proportion. So using this knowledge, shall we try to solve a problem? Let's say it takes 5 men 8 days to complete a certain task. And now we need to find the number of days required by 10 men to complete the same task. Now this is a problem on inverse proportions. Now let's try to write all the information given. Number of men and number of days. 5 men takes 8 days to complete the task. Then 10 men, we should find the number of days required by 10 men. So let's call the number of days required by 10 men as x. Now how do we find a value for x? We can use the knowledge on ratios related to inverse proportion. The ratio of number of men is 5 to 10. The ratio of number of days is 8 to x. But now we are going to write in the other way around, x to 8. And these two ratios will be equal because there is an inverse proportion between the number of men and number of days. So always remember to interchange the numbers of one ratio, either number of men or number of days. Here I have interchanged the ratio of number of days. Even you can interchange the ratio of number of men. Now let's write these ratios as fractions. Now we can simplify this using cross multiplication. 10 times x is 10x. Then 5 times 8 is 40. X is 40 divided by 10. We get 4. So what is x? X is the number of days required by 10 men to complete this task. Therefore, 10 men needs exactly 4 days to complete this task. Now, there are several ways to solve this problem. This is one of the method. Let's say this is method 1. Now, I'm going to show you another method to solve this question. Let's call it method 2. What about the number of days taken for one man? We know that lesser the number of men, higher the number of days taken to complete the task. So it should be 8 times 5. One man will take 40 days to complete this task. So what about 10 men? Now again, number of men are increased. Then it has to be 40 divided by 10. It's 4 days. Before moving to the third method, let's talk about very important point regarding the completion of a task. If you consider a certain task, we actually can find out the magnitude of the task. What do you mean by the magnitude of the task? In simple terms, this is actually the size of the task. How do we find the magnitude of the task? Magnitude of the task refers to the number of days taken by one man to complete that task. So remember, the magnitude of a task equals number of days taken by one man to complete the task. So we can easily find the number of days taken by one man by multiplying number of men and number of days. So in our case, we have 5 number of men and they take 8 days to complete the task. Therefore, the magnitude of the task is 40 man days. So one man will take 40 days to complete this task and 5 men will take 8 days to complete this task. So by finding out the number of days taken by one man, we can find out the magnitude of a task. So finally you can say man days equals number of men times number of days. Therefore, the third method, I use this equation and try to find out the answers. Now, according to the third method, 5 men takes 8 days to complete the task. So, there will be 5 times 8, 40 man days. Then what about 10 men? How many days will be taken by 10 men to complete the same task? So our man days will be 40 because this is the same task. And number of days we should find now. So let's call it X. Right. Now this is a very simple equation. You can easily solve this now. 10 times X is 10X. 10X equals 40. So X is 40 divided by 10. X is 4. Therefore, 4 days will be taken by 10 men. Fourth method is we try to represent the inverse proportion algebraically. So remember, the magnitude of the task is a constant. This means number of days taken by one man to complete the task is a constant. It's a fixed value. Therefore, we can write this equation, number of men times number of days equals constant. And let's call this constant as K. And number of men as X times number of days as Y. So you can obtain this equation XY equals K. Then you can find the value for X and also the value for Y. X equals K divided by Y. Then Y equals K divided by X. Here I have written the equation by interchanging the two sides. Now we can find the value for K. According to our case, 5 men take 8 days to complete a task. So our K is, the constant value is 40. This is the magnitude of the task. Or in other words, this is the number of days taken by one man to complete the task. And it's always a constant. So this is our first situation. Now for the second situation, it says that there are 10 men and we need to find the number of days taken for 10 men. So again, I'm taking XY equals K. X is 10 now because X represents the number of men and Y represents the number of days. Y we should find, so I'm writing Y, and K we found, it's 40 now. So what is Y? y equals 40 divided by 10. And we again take the same answer, it's 4. So 4 days are taken by 10 men. I hope you understood all 4 methods. So what is your most preferred method? For me, it's the third method. Make sure to watch all the parts of inverse proportion video series. There I talk about solving different questions related to inverse proportion. See you then. Don't forget to subscribe.